So we got some highlights of right now RFK Jr. in the fight to get, I guess, selected. He's going through the process of the nomination process of trying to again be part of the entire system, be part of Trump's administration, of course. And then Nicole Shanahan actually gave a statement to a lot of U.S. senators. And there's two ways of looking at this. First of all, it's an example of money in politics, first and foremost. And with a threat like this, it tells me that the next midterm election cycle is going to be a fight between billionaires versus billionaires. You are not the number one concerning person in the politician's mind. They care about the money. And with statements like this, it's clear to me that the midterms are going to be about money. Always about the dollars.
Hey, everyone. Tomorrow is a pivotal moment in our nation's history. At 10 a.m. Eastern Time, RFK will sit in front of the Senate Finance Committee for his confirmation hearing to be our nation's next Secretary of Health and Human Services. I urge everyone to call their U.S. senators over the following days and demand they vote yes on Bobby's nomination. He is more than qualified. He's proven, principled, and prepared to lead. I'll share a list below of key senators. If they represent your state, they need to hear from you. If they don't, please call your own senator and ask them to vote yes. We need as many votes as we can get. So this hasn't been widely reported, but in 2020, I cut large checks to Chuck Schumer to help Democrats flip 2 Senate seats in Georgia from red to blue. The 2 candidates I helped elect, Senator Raphael Warnock and Senator John Ossoff. Please know I will be watching your votes very closely.
That means, money might be used against you. And we got some highlights of RFK Jr. even speaking before the Senate hearing.
I will make it my personal mission that you lose your seats in the Senate if you vote against the future health of America's children. And more than that, I also want to say to Senators Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Bill Cassidy, Tom Tillis, James Lankford, Cory Booker, John Fetterman, Bernie Sanders, and Catherine Cortez Masto, this is a bipartisan message, and it comes directly from me. While Bobby may be willing to play nice, I won't. If you vote against him, I will personally fund challengers to primary you in your next election, and I will enlist hundreds of thousands to join me. Big Pharma and Big Ag have exploited us for far too long. It ends now. You're either on the side of transparency and accountability, or you are standing in the way. The choice is yours. Please choose wisely.
She has a set of skills, and that skill is throwing money into an election. Bad cookies. I'm going to read it right here. Funny how the rich can seem to do things, kind of like they work for them or something, Yeah. It's interesting. It is interesting. It is very interesting how you see the system play before you. While Bobby's willing to play nice, I'm not. And I want to give a huge shout out to good friend of the show, Sarcasm Stardust, Misty Winston. People praising this like it's a good thing are effing idiots. Blackmailing people into voting how you want or else you'll buy an election is the effing problem. You twats. Of course indeed. So there you go. And that's the problem. That's the problem with the system indeed. But also, folks, also, we actually have a message from RFK Jr. as well. So let's go ahead and pull this up here, shall we? Shall we indeed? Let's play it.
To be sitting here today as President Trump's nominee oversee the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. I want to thank President Trump for entrusting me to deliver on his promise to make America healthy again. I also want to thank Cheryl and Kik and Bobby and all of my other children who are here today and all the many members of my large extended family for the love that they have so generously shared. Ours has always been a family that has been involved in public service, and I look forward to continuing that tradition. My journey into the issue of health began with my career as an environmental attorney, working with hunters and fishermen and mothers in the small town in the Hudson Valley and along the Hudson River, I learned very early on that human health and environmental injuries are intertwined. The same chemicals that kill fish make people sick also. Today, Americans' overall health is in grievous condition. Over 70% of adults and a third of children are overweight or obese. Diabetes is 10 times more prevalent than it was during the 1960s. Cancer among young people is rising by 1 or 2% a year. Autoimmune diseases, neurodevelopmental disorders, Alzheimer's, asthma, ADHD, depression, addiction, and a host of other physical and mental health conditions are all on the rise, some of them exponentially. The United States has worse health than any other developed nation, yet we spend more on healthcare, at least double, and in some cases triple, as other countries. Last year, we spent $4.8 trillion, not counting the indirect costs of missed work. That's almost a fifth of GDP. It's tantamount to a 20% tax on the entire economy. No wonder America has trouble competing with countries that pay a third of what we do for health and have better outcomes and a healthier workforce.
We have a couple of people commenting on us already. Dan Bear says, Big Pharma hears this and is like, what's the problem? And also, let's see, also, Torwin says, these stats are terrifying in their implications if you think about them for 1 second, of course. And also, hold on, folks. We got a couple people. Ann and User says, roadkill bears for dinner. I see you. I see you indeed. And let's see. What else we have here? We also have other people here commenting that they're gonna probably get him sworn in, probably not, because after all, it'll be more frontline titles if he is not put a part of the Trump administration. But we'll see how the Democrats act. Continuing on.
And I don't want to make this too much about money. It's the human tragedy that moves us to care. President Trump has promised to restore America's global strength and to restore the American dream, but he understands we can't be a strong nation when our people are so sick. A healthy person has 1,000 dreams. A sick person has only one. Today, over half of our countrymen and women are chronically ill. When I met with President Trump last summer, I discovered that he has more than just concern for this tragic situation, but genuine care. President Trump is committed to restoring the American dream, and 77 million Americans delivered a mandate to him to do just that, due in part to the embrace and elevation of the Make America Healthy Again movement. This movement, led largely by Maha moms from every state, you can see many of them behind us today, and in the hallways and in the lobbies, is one of the most transcendent and powerful movements I've ever seen. I promise President Trump that if confirmed, I will do everything in my power to put the health of Americans back on track. And I've been greatly heartened to discover a deep level of care among members of this committee, too, both Democrats and Republicans. I came away from our conversations confident that we can put aside our divisions for the sake of a healthier America. For a long time, the nation has been locked in a divisive healthcare debate about who pays. Well, when healthcare costs reach 20%, there are no good options.
Yes, that's why we should have Medicare for all. So pausing here, there was actually a little bit more of a back and forth between one Democrat senator, Mark Warner, and RFK Jr. So I want to play this up here because this is another example of the back and forth debates that we were seeing here. But again, if the Democrats, if Bernie Sanders, AOC actually fought harder for Medicare for all, especially during the primaries of 2016 and 2020, maybe things would be different. Maybe people wouldn't be on edge. Maybe things would improve for the American people. Maybe.
You said publicly, you want to immediately get rid of 600 NIH workers on day one. when we had our meeting, you said you actually like to get rid of 2,200 people from HHS. Which offices are you going to start cutting and riffing these 2,200 workers from?
Senator, there's 200 political appointees that are changed during every administration.
So if you got rid of those 200 political appointees, you're not going to replace them with your political appointeties.
Well, President Biden this year changed 3,000 employees at HHS, 3,750
So
at NIH.
your 2,200, what departments are you going to pick them from?
Well, the same as President Biden did when he changed 3,000 out. They're
Let me
from
just,
across all
I'm down to a minute 30. The chairman's been generous with colleagues on both sides. I may have to go a couple minutes over, but let me just say, so let's just answer, this would be, I hope, since you're asking to become the top healthcare official in the United States in terms of HHS, huge ramifications, and part of this job is to be the senior advisor to the president on health issues. So when we're looking at this purge and we're looking at laying off workers, when we're looking at potentially the president's illegal offer to try to buy out federal employees, which I would say to any federal employees, think twice. Has this individual in his business world ever fulfilled his contracts or obligations to any workers in the past? But if you are in this position, will you pledge that you will not fire federal employees who work on food safety, work on trying to preventing things like salmonella?
Also, shout out to Matt. This is such bullshit. No one in the government cares about wasting money. That's their job. Of course, indeed. And everyone else here, Prim 54, is that the best that Warner has? Sheesh. Well, of course, this is the best that they got because what they got to run on for the last 4 years? Biden and Kamala doing nothing. You know, I just pulled up a tweet earlier in the show where you notice whether you like Trump or not, he's able to do things and he's not waiting on a sudden parliamentarian or dragging his feet. And Democrats, you could have held his feet to the fire. You could have fought harder for real progressive policy, but you didn't. Everybody went to brunch.
Senator, there's 91,000 employees.
So that I take that as I take it. That's a simple yes. And I'm going to take that as a no.
Run that
I take that as a no. Will you actually? We talked about protecting Americans from cyber criminals. Something we need to do a lot more on. Will you commit not to fire anyone in the health arena who currently works on protecting Americans from cyber attacks in their healthcare files?
I will commit to not firing anybody who's doing their job.
Based on your opinion, based upon your opinion, or your political agenda, or Mr. Trump's political agenda?
Based upon my opinion.
I guess that means a lot of the folks who've had any type of views on vaccines will be out of work.
Oh, that's kind of a low blow, you know, and I have my criticisms for RFK Jr. I do, especially in regards for his diehard stance with Israel and what's happening in Gaza. But, you know, RFK Jr. and his defense wasn't all against all vaccines, but okay, fine. Gotta love corporate media and Democrats spewing out same old BS. This is all for show for this hearing. I'm willing to bet there's a good possibility of RFK Jr. being put in. So let's go ahead and play this next video where another Democrat tries to challenge him, of course. And this is actually where RFK Jr. is calling out the Democrats too. So let's play this video.
Americans don't, by and large, do not like the Affordable Care Act. People are on it. They don't like Medicaid. They like Medicare. And they like private insurance. We need to listen to what they would prefer to be on private insurance. Most Americans, if they can afford to.
No, what actually Americans want is affordable health care. So they don't go into bankruptcy or debt, RFK Jr. And yes, while I hear you are calling out the Democrats for Affordable Care Act, because the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, but also called Romney Care, is a Republican think tank idea. Mitt Romney, blame him before you start going after Obama. But ask Americans how they really view healthcare. Ask them how they really feel about their healthcare. Ask them where they stand on their healthcare. especially in regards to what recently happened with United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, how many Americans are sharing their stories about how they're denied coverage. Hey, folks, do you like private healthcare insurance? Do you like things as they are? Type 1 for yes, kid, I do. It's fine. Type 2, no, I hate them. Don't even ask that question again. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I wonder how many 2s will show up in the chat.
We need to listen to what people, they would prefer to be on private insurance. Most Americans, if they can afford to be, will be on private insurance.
Keyword, if you can afford to be. Afford is the watchword of the day.
We need to figure out ways to improve care, particularly for elderly, for veterans, for the poor in this country. And Medicaid, the current model is not doing that. I would ask, any of the Democrats who are chuckling just now, do you think all that money, the $900 billion that we're sending to Medicaid every year, has made Americans healthy? Do we think it's working for anybody? Are the premiums low enough? Americans.
Now, just want to share something here too, because already you could tell how corporate media is going to be writing their stories and how they're going to be talking about this entire hearing process. RFK Jr. was a front and center kind of name during the election process. I mean, he was the most well-known of the independent candidates, but it's very clear to all of us watching that the media did have their sights set on him, trying to take him apart, especially when he was running in the Democratic primary. And of course, how corporate media was saying that he was going to be devastating to Biden and then by proxy, Kamala. This is all for show. And at the end of the day, the system will carry on. It's just going to be meet the new boss, same as the old boss. I am ever hopeful that we can get to a better system, but knowing what's happening right now with Medicaid and its uncertainty, especially what happened yesterday with many of the portals and all of the 50 states being frozen, thankfully there was a judge to temporarily lift it, but again, it's only temporary. The fact that Americans struggle day in, day out with their health insurance, if you can afford to get it, if you can, but there's always that 100% certainty of being denied health care coverage by your insurance company. I've lost count how many times all of you, my audience, have shared stories like that in the live stream chat. But what's also interesting too, playing back from the very beginning of this video, you have Nicole Shanahan, who was RFK Jr.'s running mate. Very wealthy. No matter how this plays out, I want you to remember, you had somebody of affluence, of power, of wealth, saying before the whole world, because the whole internet saw it, that if this hearing doesn't go a certain way, a couple of U.S. senators are going to be put on notice and she'll be getting involved. On the one hand, okay, fine, you're getting involved. On the other hand, this is money in politics. Tell me again, diehard Democrat voters and diehard Republican voters, how do you have a seat at the table? And you know what else frightens me too, is that there could be quote unquote independent candidates who are propped up and doing well. But always ask yourself, how are they funded? Because you never know who's in the background. Don't you love American politics? You don't have a seat at the table, but yet you're given a participation trophy anyways.